Hey guys, and welcome back to That's the Tea with Mia Baker, presented by Aramco Team Series. And we have a very special episode today. We're joined by the one and only Shandi Strong. There's the claps for her. So Shandi's actually a really important part of the team. She works for Performance 54, who put on the Aramco Team Series. And she's not used to being on this side of the camera, are you?
Normally I'm on the other side. So this is really strange to me, but
Stressed? Not stressed?
A little bit nervous, not stressed.
It's quite intense having a microphone in your face.
All this,
and cameras. There's 3 cameras here all looking at us. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about you.
Just ignore all of that.
So can you tell us a little bit about what your role is? The title is quite a long title.
So my title is Player and Talent Manager. So my day-to-day job is looking after all the players and any content creators like yourself that we bring into the events. Everyone calls me Mum because I quite literally look after everyone day and night. So I will book people's flights, do their schedules, book their accommodation, and then just a day-to-day point of contact if they need anything. I think I've had quite a lot of requests for some weird stuff over the years.
What's the weirdest thing you've had a request for?
I've had a request for someone who's forgotten their golf shoes at a golf tournament, and I've had to go and get them.
Wait, where from? What, is
from a hotel. So
they left their shoes at the hotel.
They left their shoes at the hotel. I've had to go back and get them because I knew that if I just told the hotel, please, can you bring the golf shoes?
Yeah.
They might not bring the right ones because sometimes golf shoes can look like normal sneakers nowadays.
And they probably have 20 in their room anyway.
And I was just like, you know
ones.
what? I know which one it is. So I went in and got it. So
have you had any other weird ones?
Someone's asked me to go send a car to get a hat for them.
Sorry, what? Can you explain that situation?
So this person, she'll probably know who she is. If she watches this, she'll be laughing. So and I know because she asked somebody else, can I ask Shandi this? Because she knew. So she was going to the races and she needed a hat. So she wanted to go buy a hat and she needed a car to go take her to go get the hat. And I was just like, oh my goodness.
Is this in my scope of work?
Yeah, exactly. So it's my job entails looking after and dealing with all these requests.
Which is quite chaotic when how many players are there that come to these events that you're looking after? How many people would you say you look after?
15, 20 people.
15, 20. Relatively demanding people, myself included in
You're not demanding. You're the easiest.
Just don't ask any questions ever. But you actually have a pretty sought after role. I mean, how many people do you know who would die to work in sport, die to work with the players themselves and get to know them? You know us all like mates.
Yeah, I think it's nice because you're all we all are mates, but at the same time, I'm still doing a job, and loads of people are always like, oh, your job is so cool, you know all these people, and I'm not gonna lie, it is a really cool job to do, but yeah, it is. I'm quite thankful for what I do.
Yeah, do you feel like you always have to have an underlying, I can't actually relax, I'm at work, or do you ever feel like, okay, these are my friends and I can relax and it's fine?
Yeah, so at events it's really different. So obviously we're mates, we'll go out for dinner and stuff, but at the same time, you know me, we'll be out for dinner, but I'll be on my phone, sorting stuff out. So I can't really fully relax ever at events, which is so you know how some people, they'll go back to the hotel room, they'll switch off. No, I'm texting in my bed, making sure everyone knows what they have to do for tomorrow. Yeah. So it is just a 24/7 job when I'm on an event. Luckily, when I'm not on an event, I can just switch off a little bit, but it is 24/7 for me.
Yeah. How many events are there a year that you have to do?
So I've now done, I think, 7 or 8 events this year. I think by the end of the year, I would have done 10.
Nice. Across the world, that is.
Yes.
So that's Aramco Team Series and Aramco
Team Series, Aramco Saudi Ladies International. I sometimes dabble in the men's side. Right. So I've done Live before, and I've also done International Series. So, and Saudi men's. There's also the equivalent of the Saudi men's. So done a lot of events.
Yeah, and which one's your favourite event that you've done?
Obviously the Aramco Team Series events.
So which one? Is there one that you've been to and you've been like, damn, that was a good event?
I really liked the Spain events. I thought those were really good. We unfortunately don't have Spain on the schedule anymore.
Yeah, Grande last
Soto Grande
year,
was really nice. And the place we went to, it was like a resort. It was just so nice.
The hotels are exceptional.
They are. So.
I was hoping you weren't going to say Florida then because I wasn't there. So I was like,
of course not. It wasn't the same without you.
So your role, how did you even get into it? Like, what is your background and how did it come about?
I never actually used to work with players. So I accidentally fell into golf. That's how I kind of tell people I started. So
did you go to uni?
I didn't go to uni.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point this out. I actually knew the answer to that question. I just wanted you to answer it. So there you go. She didn't go to uni. But there's so much pressure on youngsters these days that if you don't go to uni, you then can't work in a, what we call, professional, proper job.
That's exactly right. So when I was doing my A-levels, there was obviously like a program for you to like go to uni, like look at different unis. And I basically said to my teacher at the time, I was like, look, I don't really know what I want to do. And I don't want to spend all this money going to uni and then don't like my degree. Like I was really stressed. So I said to her, look, I'm going to take a gap year. And she was so upset that I was taking a gap year because, like you said, there's so much pressure. Like they want you to go to good uni. They think that's the only path for you to take. So I'm here to show you that that's not the only path you have to take. You can still end up in a good job.
There's so many people in the world. It doesn't actually make sense that everyone has to go down the uni route. Like realistically, I went down the uni route. What am I doing? Probably something that I didn't really need to go to uni for.
And I think for events as well, like when I first started interviewing to get into like these kind of jobs, they actually preferred that I hadn't gone to uni and I had the on-site experience. Because I remember my old boss, he said to me, because I sat down and he was like, okay, so what qualifications do you have? And I was like, to be honest, I didn't go to uni, but I've worked XYZ event. And he was like, well, I actually prefer that because you know what happens there and then in an event. You know how to react. Whereas someone who's gone to study it may not know how to deal with that sort of situation. So actually it's worked out. It depends on your job, obviously, but sometimes that on-site experience makes it better.
Yeah. So after not uni,
after
school,
uni. I ended
on your gap year, did you work?
Into like a gap life.
I'm also on my gap life, so welcome. Exactly. It's great. Everyone should come on a gap life.
So basically during my gap year, I did an internship for PGA Tour.
Okay.
So,
is your background in golf?
No, not at all.
So why did you want to work for PGA Tour?
I had zero clue about golf, but I knew I needed a job.
Right.
And so I was fortunate enough to have family friends who worked for PGA Tour, and he knew I was looking for some sort of experience. So he was like, look, why don't you come help out on the event and you can put that on your CV and see if you like it.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to do that. And then during the internship, I found that I really liked events. Still didn't know anything about golf, but, here I am now.
Which part of the events did you like?
I think just the atmosphere, and it's not like your regular 9-to-5 desk job. Like you're always doing something new, something's popped up, like you're just constantly on the go, and that's what I really enjoyed. And so after the internship, my boss turned around and said to me, do you want to work for us for a year? Because I know you were still here for another year. And so I was like, yeah, awesome, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So I did work for them for another year. This was in Malaysia. So I was living in Malaysia at the time.
Cool.
So we did another PGA Tour event in Malaysia there. And then unfortunately he couldn't hire me full time after that, but that's just because of visas and stuff and all that logistical stuff, because I'm not actually Malaysian. So that was a nightmare. But then he very nicely passed my CV on to another golf company, which we won't mention on this podcast. We won't give them the airtime. And I worked for them for 4 or 5 years. And within that role, I did operations. So I wasn't always in players.
Right.
I did more so it was still kind of booking flights, accommodation, but it was more so for like the entire events, like guests and everything like that. And then also doing more so transport and different bits like that. Then I ended up...
So it was like more coordination stuff that you've been doing, not like putting on the event or organising the event.
Basically.
Right.
So then I ended up moving into a marketing role.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a side of Shandi I don't know.
Yeah. So I ended up doing a marketing role because the guy who did our marketing, he left. So there was a hole to fill. And because I've been on the events team for so long, they were like, you know the event inside out. Can you just fill this role while we look for someone else to, replace him? So I ended up doing that for a while. I did not like marketing. I still
hard,
do it.
isn't it?
It's so
They're
hard.
like, be creative.
Exactly.
Like, how?
And I'm not a creative person at all.
Like super organized.
Yeah, I'm
diligent.
I'm one of those people, OCD, organized. Like, tell me to draw something, I'm like, you want what? I couldn't
A
figure.
square?
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
just about do that.
I was like, no, this is not for me. But because I was doing marketing, I worked with loads of different players, men and women. So that's kind of how the relationships with players started. And I ended up, getting pulled into doing different player bits here and there. And then I ended up leaving said company and I came to P54 and now I work with players full time.
Yeah.
Which
was that your first role at P54?
Yeah,
Right.
straight away. And I knew from that previous company that I wanted to work with players.
Right.
So that's kind of why I left, because there was no role in players in that company. So I came to P54 and they've given me a role that I really enjoy. I get to work with you and loads of other players, and it is really, like, I love it.
Yeah.
And it is my dream job. So I've come here, I've got my dream job, and it's really nice. And this is...
I'm getting those emotional goosebumps. I've told you guys
know.
about this before, but I get emotional goosebumps so bad.
Yeah, so it is really nice. And lo and behold, nearly 10 years later, I'm still in golf. I've learned so much. I used to think golf was so boring.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate stereotype that golf has, that it's really boring. But it's not. It's fun. And like people like you, Mia, you make it seem so much more fun.
I mean, I'm not the best person to ask, but I'll say I love golf. I'm like, it's amazing.
Well, you've converted me. Like, I've turned into a little golf nerd. I've started lessons and everything. So I used
get
to...
those swing videos in WhatsApp, don't you worry.
I'm like, Mia, look at this. I used to swear, I'd be like, I'm never picking up a golf club. But no, it's happened. So yeah.
What was it about, like, working with players that you really wanted to do? Like, why is that your dream job? Because to me, it sounds like a nightmare to deal with people like me. I'm like, get out of here.
I don't actually know. Like, I think I just like working with people, and I think athletes are such interesting people as well. Don't get me wrong. There are downsides to my job, like the working 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I have to work weekends, like looking after these girls. Like, sometimes it does interfere with my personal life, but I still wouldn't trade it.
Yeah.
I still love what I do. Like, I could never go back to doing a 9-to-5 desk job. Like, I just...
Yeah, it'd be so hard. And you get a lot of perks as well, really, don't you? Like,
yeah, a little bit here and there. Like, we got to go to the F1.
Yeah.
Thanks to Aramco.
Yeah. Thanks to Aramco.
Yeah.
She had to be there to obviously look after the players
exactly.
who were going.
I was like, I have to be there to look after you guys, obviously.
Who was the first player that you started working with?
That's a really good question.
Do you remember?
I don't know.
Was it a female or a male?
So in terms of like the first kind of interactions I had with players, do you know, the first player I ever kind of fully interacted with, and she's now one of my really good friends, is Emily Pedersen.
Really?
Yeah, and it's so funny how it's come full circle, because now I look after her on these Aramco Team Series events.
So
but I remember we met in Singapore on another event, and I was really nervous to go up to her.
I was going to say, were you nervous?
She looks really serious and scary, and she knows that. She knows this, but she's like, me. And I was like, hi, Emily, like, do you mind doing this? And she looked at me, and I was like, oh, God, she's going to scream at me. And she was like, she just beamed at me. She's like, yeah, of course. And I was just like, oh, okay. And she gave me a number there and then. And
oh, that's nice. That is one of the hardest things. Like, you get requested to get players to do jobs that they have to do.
Yeah.
But of course they don't want to do it because they want to play golf and they want to go home and they want to sleep and they want to come back out and play golf again.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do it?
I think that's kind of where the relationships come in.
Yeah.
So just being nice. Like, they aren't just normal human beings. So just making that connection with them, chatting to them, and, just being their friend almost. I think that kind of helps. And they always say, like, we are just normal human beings.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to know each of their personalities as well. Yes. Like, you have to know, okay, don't approach her now. Let's talk about this later. Or even just like, say for like this podcast, we've had so many different guests, and I know kind of who fits with who would actually be good on the podcast. It's the same for other content pieces we do. Like, I know, okay, she's not going to be good at that. Let's get this other player in. So it's a lot of like fixing pieces of the puzzles together.
Yeah.
And it's all up here. So it's like, sometimes it's hard to like tell people what I do, because I'm just like, there's so much.
And it's like timings as well. Like, there's certain times they say someone's had a bad round, the last thing they want to do is say, come on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like, you also have to manage other people's expectations, because you do have to say, like you said, if someone has a bad round, they're not going to want to come and do like an interview or whatever, and you just have to manage other people's expectations, be like, okay, let's be realistic, she's not going to do it today.
Yeah.
Could we do this instead? So it's a lot of like give and take. You have to know how to manage people, and that's the biggest part of my job, I would say. And
scheduling. So I'm just using this podcast as an example, but say you didn't turn up today. We've got dependencies on all these people behind the camera who are expecting an output. So you have to kind of think on your feet quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of just today there were last minute things that got thrown my way, and I had to be like, okay, these are the new timings. And then those new timings, they were all wrong. So then I was like, okay, guys, we have to do this instead. So it's a lot of like, you make a schedule and it changes 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And I think that's really hard. Like, it's hard when you have to tell someone, really sorry, but your schedule's changed for the 7th time today.
This podcast was supposed to be 3 hours ago, and I was like, Mia, I'm really sorry.
Luckily, I'm super chilled and relaxed, and I did not nearly fall asleep at my desk because I'm on terrible jet lag.
The jet lag's been awful. We're in Hong Kong, and the jet lag's been awful.
Yeah, what is that about? How are you meant to work? Like, we were up at 5 a.m. Were we up at 5? I don't know what time my alarm went off.
I woke up at 4 and I just couldn't go back to sleep.
Why up? Oh, I was going to say, why are you up at 4?
No, I mean, like, just because I couldn't go back to sleep.
Shandi works so hard that she's up at 4 a.m. every single day. I wish. Yeah, how do you deal with all of the jet lag and stuff? Because you travel a lot.
I do travel a lot. So, actually, Rachel Drummond told me a tip.
Oh, yeah?
Pop some melatonin.
Okay.
Yes. Everyone's like, God, she's doing drugs. No. So this is what I'm trying to explain to people.
Okay.
So melatonin's that hormone in your body that you produce naturally when you sleep anyway. So when you take a melatonin tablet, it just kind of ups the melatonin in your system. So say when we come here, we're not used to sleeping at this time. Like, it would be 2 p.m. where we are when we're trying to go to bed, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably got that completely wrong.
Let's just say
Let's just say My math is terrible for someone who does scheduling.
So is mine for someone who's got a maths degree. Okay, moving on.
Anyway, so if you take that melatonin, you can just go right to sleep. I mean, I took it the other night and it worked. Like, I was able to fall asleep really quickly instead of lying in bed being like, I really want to.
Do you not get really groggy? I feel like I get really groggy off of that type of stuff.
It depends. Like, so I've taken some melatonin tablets where I've woken up and felt really groggy, and then some I've woken up and felt fine. So I guess it depends. Like, there's different strengths you can take. So
yeah. Interesting. I will think about it. Probably not do it. All right. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Which player would you say messages you the most? Who's the most needy?
I would say either Olivia Cowan. Or Emily.
Olivia, I did not think of that of you.
She's probably gonna, if she watches this, she's probably gonna be like, no, I don't. But she's just like, Shandi, where do I need to go? What do I need to do? If she reads her schedule, that is. She actually hasn't read her schedule. I sent her one time and I'm like, where are you? She's like, I'm playing. What? And I'm like, Olivia, you're supposed to be here.
So one really interesting thing actually about Performance 54 and that I've noticed working with you guys is how many women you have internally, especially for like a golf event. It's not traditionally known to have a lot of women.
Yeah.
And every time I come, I'm like, who are all these new ones coming in? Got some new ones here watching today.
Yes, there's two behind the camera. Shout out to Holly and Ella. I think in general in women's, like in sport, women, it's not common for women to be in sport. I think I read a stat somewhere like 80% of the jobs in sport are men, which I find so ridiculous.
Isn't it crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
But in terms of Performance 54, like our team here in Asia is run by Vicky Jones. She's our championship director, and it's so nice to have like a woman just leading the charge and to show younger girls like you can get to a high level. And I think her team in general as well is 90% women. So that is just amazing. And just trying to show women that they can work in sport, they can do things in such a male, like just playing sport as well. It's a male-dominated industry. So I think we're just creating new opportunities, and it's great. And P54 actually have a women's bursary that Holly, who's behind the camera, is running.
Tell me more about this women's bursary.
So they've created basically a golf, I'd say a golf scholarship.
Okay.
So they're providing funding for, is it 3 years, Holly? Yes, 3 years. I'm part of the bursary. I should know this.
Oh,
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank
I don't
you.
even know what it
Yes.
is, but
Holly's
congrats.
my mentor.
Wait, is this for real?
Yeah, actually, for real.
Wow.
Holly's great at golf. She's my mentor.
Oh, a golf mentor.
Yeah, golf
I got
mentor.
confused then.
Not, yeah. Golf mentor. At Holly Mug Golf. Anyway. Back to the
She
bursary.
just cringed at that.
I know. Back to the bursary. So for 3 years, we get a set amount of funding, and that funding can go towards anything golf related. So that
Okay.
could be lessons, it could be golf equipment, golf clothes, and it's to help progress women who have never done anything in golf but work in golf and want to have like lessons or something and help them progress to a higher level, because golf can be such a hard sport to access. It's hard.
Yeah, it's
it
hard.
can be expensive, I'm not gonna lie, as well.
It is
so
expensive.
to have this bursary for some of the girls in the company is actually really good.
Yeah.
So I wish more companies would do stuff like that. So
But it's having people internally who have
Yeah.
that initiative, and unfortunately it has to come from women because the men probably won't think about
oh
it.
yeah, no.
So it's well done, Holly, for doing that. You can have a
You can
little
have a
round of applause. So have you used your bursary? Have you had lessons?
Yes. So I've had
Okay.
I've had lessons with Rachel Drummond.
Nice. And what have you
Yes.
learnt? So we're talking Shandi, not really play golf. Like you've
Not
hit a ball
really.
once or
I've
twice.
hit a ball once or twice. But what's funny is, so because I've watched so much golf, when I went for my lesson with Rachel, she was like, actually, you've got a lot of the basics already down
Yeah.
because it's probably in your brain from watching so much golf. But I think in terms of like striking the ball, like that was where it was all going wrong. So she's tweaked
Like
my
most of us, don't worry.
Yeah. So she's tweaked my swing a bit. I'm at the stage where I can hit the ball straight.
Nice.
So that's really good.
What she told you so far? What was like the first tip she gave you?
So the first tip was, I'm trying to remember now.
So memorable.
So backswing was great. It was obviously when I came down, my club face was super open.
Right.
So she gave me a bunch of drills to try and close my club face. And I'm not gonna lie, like it's hard. Golf
It's
is hard.
Isn't it?
So like, and it's just so frustrating. Like I think I messaged you once. I went to the range and I was like, oh, I'm hitting it great, blah, blah, blah. Went the next day, all went. And I was like, Mia, I don't like golf. I can't hit the ball.
I know, it feels like you literally learnt something and then it did
just
nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So golf is hard, but I think lessons, and you just need to be consistent as well.
Yeah.
Like
Lots of
yeah,
practice.
and I realized how like inflexible, is that a word? Unflexible?
Unflexible.
Unflexible?
Unflexible.
Unflexible. I
Really?
am. Yeah.
Unflexible.
Yeah. So like I went to swing back and she's like, you're not going back far enough, and I went like that. I was like, oh no.
It's probably just new movement.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember the next day I was like, I'm hurting in places I didn't think I would hurt.
I have muscles.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Welcome, Shandi.
So yeah.
Yeah, that is it's pretty fun starting the journey, I would say.
Yeah.
Like for me it's kind of a long time ago, but not a long time ago.
It's exciting because like Gabby's given me her old clubs, and now I've got like a full set. And as soon as I got them, like I went straight to the range. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I can't wait to try these out. Like it is super exciting when you take up something new and something I've been around for like golf around for a long time, but to actually start playing it as well, like I really appreciate what these girls do now. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
yeah, exactly.
hard. Like,
And the
it is
idea and
hard.
thought that you could go and play with girls now, like your
Yeah,
friends and stuff, is
exactly.
quite good. So obviously you know a lot of the girls and you work with them. Do you feel like now playing golf is going to benefit your relationship with them at all?
Yeah, I feel like I can appreciate, like I said, I appreciate what they do more, and I can understand the headspace. Like when what we talked about earlier, when they come off
Yeah.
the golf course and they've had a really terrible round, like I know exactly what they're going through because
Yeah.
I felt so disheartened coming off the range. I was like, God, I just hate golf.
Yeah, it's hard.
So it is hard, and these girls are doing it for a living, like it's their job. So if you're playing really bad one day, like it can get so frustrating. That's why a lot of
Yeah.
girls have a mental coach to try
Yeah.
and keep them in the zone, like making sure they're on the right track. And I've heard a lot of the girls say golf is 90% a mental game, to be fair. Like you just have to stay out
Yeah.
of your head almost, because if you get too in your head and start over analyzing your swing, like you can just be doing all the wrong things.
Yeah.
So,
Have you had any of the girls come to you like after a bad round looking for support, or is that not something you do as much?
I think a couple of them, like most of them want to be left alone if they've had a bad round, I find. Like, because obviously they'll come off the course and like sometimes they'll be obliged to do media, and I just know looking at their face, I'm like, nope, today's not the day. Yeah, I've seen media walk up to one player before and I've been like, nope, you are not talking to them. You will get punched in the face.
Not literally.
Yeah, not literally, but you know. So I do act as a bodyguard as well. Add that to the CV.
Love it.
Yeah, so it's tough. But yeah.
What would you say if someone was looking to probably get into a role similar to yours? Like, how would they get into it? Because they maybe don't know any of the players yet. They don't know talent.
Yeah.
Like,
I think obviously just start looking at different like sport agencies. So try and do your research into different ones. And it's not just like, you don't just have to do my role. You can do other roles. Like, as I said, we've got loads of women who work in P54, like we've got girls who work in social, in guest services, like there's actually loads of different roles within sport.
What kind of roles would you say are most prominent? Like,
most prominent
what are the sections, the pillars?
Yeah, so we've got social, so that's more in like the marketing team, and we have girls like within the marketing team as well who do the entire marketing for the event. So all the branding you see, advertising, that's all available to them. It's not just boys. We also have guest services, so that's in terms of like running the entire event for everyone. So they will do the transport for all the guests. They will look at the accommodation, the gifting. So there's a lot of admin work that side, which, to be fair, people think that admin is more girls, and then like the actual putting up of the boards and like building stuff is boys. But my boyfriend, he works in the admin side for another company in sport. So there's no like right or wrong. There's no girls and boys jobs. So you can do whatever you wanted if you wanted to work in sport. You just have to do your research. I would say sport, you have to make your contacts. You have to do your networking to try and get in the door. That's the one thing I would say. Even now, I'm still meeting new people, networking. So I think that's the main thing I would say. Make sure you're getting your foot in the door, talking to different people within the industry. And I think that's your way in.
Yeah, I think networking is such like a weird word. It's quite like a hard thing to do.
Really
They're like,
hard. Like, I'm
just network. What does that even mean? How do I even do that? How do I even get into the places whereby I network?
But I think golf in general is a really like, there's always somebody who knows somebody.
It's such a small industry.
The golf is such a small industry. So even just meeting one person, that's going to open doors for you.
Yeah.
So just try and, you know, go to the range. You'll meet different people. I'm sure there's somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah.
Go to different golf events. Even just going to the events in general, like there's loads of people there. So you never know who you're going to meet.
I think it's also about like adding value, being useful. There's no point in just going up and trying to like get yourself a job if you don't add anything.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say you need to think about what is your like unique selling point? What is your niche? Like, how can you add value to a company? Exactly what you said. So like for me, I have my people skills. I can talk to the players. I can talk to like managing the situations and stuff like that. So you have to think, what am I good at and how can I apply that to different sports? I mean, you don't just have to do it for golf. I'm sure there's my job in like the football equivalent, in the basketball equivalent, like not just golf. So just have to try and think about what makes me special, basically.
Yeah, I think just think about the thing that like brings you joy on a day-to-day basis, like not as a whole, but more like the little tasks. And for you, that's talking to people, that's dealing with these situations. Probably for you, it's being helpful as well. Like there's something to be said about helping someone.
You know,
makes you feel like happy.
Exactly. So what's really nice is all the girls at the end of the event, they all come up to me like, thank you so much for looking after me. Like, you're all the best, blah, blah, blah. And that's what makes my job worthwhile, because they're so thankful that they get treated so well. And
the gratefulness,
you know, exactly. And like the girls have sent me flowers. They like, a couple of them bought me Christmas presents. Like, it's just really nice at the end of the day, because my job is hard. Like, it's a 24/7 job. So having stuff like that at the end of the event, at the end of the year, like that makes it worthwhile. Yeah.
What would you say is the most stressful part of your job that you didn't kind of expect?
I think just, it's sort of like the unexpected nature of the events. So like today, we've had like last minute things thrown in. That's how I've ended up on this podcast.
It's a special episode.
Special episode. And I think just being able to adapt, like it's stressful at the time because you're like, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And in those moments, I kind of I take a breath, because if you panic and you do something while you panic, then it's not going to come out the way it's supposed to. Like you need to take a breath and think about all the different options, and that's kind of what I do, and I assess the situation. I think that's the most stressful, because you think you need to sort it there and now. But sorting it there and now is actually probably worse than just taking 2 seconds to breathe and think about, okay, let's do this instead. And also, I'm really bad at this, but don't be afraid to ask for help. Like today, I had to ask a couple of people for help, because you have to think, for me, there's only one of me. So if I can't be in two places at once, you need to ask somebody for help sometimes. And that's just the same for anybody else. Like if you feel, the one thing I would say with people coming into their job is, don't be afraid to like ask questions, ask for help, because that shows that you're being intuitive and you want to learn. So I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, I also think if you find it difficult to ask for help, imagine how you feel when someone asks you for help. You're like, I'll help you. Do you know what I mean? You kind of feel good, and you're like,
oh.
But then if you don't ask them for help, then you're depriving them of that joy that they could be getting by helping you.
And that's one good thing about our events team is we all travel together. We all know what happens on these events. So we all are super like, I'll help you. Don't worry. So that's what I really enjoy about P54 and these ATS events. Like everyone's just one big family. It's really nice.
You must get really close relationships with people.
Because you travel with them all the time, so you have to like them. But, you're away from your family. It's hard. It's the same for like even the players, like they're constantly away from their families. So you just need to be able to, get along with people. And I say, like a lot of the girls on tour there, they found some of their closest friends because they're always traveling together. And I think that's the nice thing. Like we've become really close friends because we always see each other on these events. So it is nice.
How do you cope with that? Like being away from
it's hard.
Your family, your boyfriend.
Yeah. And also because he works in events as well. So sometimes our schedules really clash. Like I haven't seen him now for 3 weeks. Yeah. And I think last year we went 6 weeks without seeing each other.
Such a long time.
It's a long time.
How do you do that?
I think now it's much easier probably because we've got stuff like FaceTime and stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't supplement, but it does make it easier. Like I can't imagine those days when there wasn't any FaceTime.
Yeah,
people
you can
did
even,
these
like,
kind of
phone
jobs.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like what would you do? But it is hard. But I think you have to think about your job. Like this is so gratifying. And I think if you have people that support you as well, like my family's supportive of what I do, my boyfriend's supportive because he understands he's in the same industry.
It helps when they understand what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've had past relationships, people don't understand my job, and like it's hard to explain because you're just in events, you're just sucked into this world, and it's just like you're on the go constantly, and it's just
and you can't give out enough attention.
Exactly, and it gets you down, like you feel bad, but I think if you have people that support you, it makes your life easier. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if it gets easier. You said it gets easier.
Yeah,
I feel like it doesn't
never
get
gets easier. Like when I was coming here, I was like, oh, I don't want to leave home. And
it's the transition. I find the transition so
Once
difficult.
you're here, it's fine. But leaving home, it's like, and I'm sure like it's like that for anyone, but leaving home, it's just like, oh, I don't want to leave home.
I know.
And like this summer, we had a nice little break because like Aramco events, sometimes they're stacked together. But this summer we had a nice little break. And my boyfriend said to me, he's like, do you want to go on holiday because you finally have a break? And I went, no, I want to stay home. I'm never home. Like my holiday is staying at home. I felt bad, but not really. 'Cause I was in my own bed for once. I was like, oh, yes, so happy.
Do you find any of your friends don't understand your job and they're like, why are you not messaging me back? I only see your life on socials.
Yeah, I've actually lost quite a few friends because of being in the job I'm in because I'm never home, so I can't see them, and they think I have this glamorous life because I'm always traveling, but it's not actually that glamorous. Like I'm jet lagged, I'm tired, I'm hot, I'm sweaty. It's like
you're really painting a glorious picture here.
I swear it's a good job, but it is tough. And like I said, people who travel with you, like a lot of my colleagues are good friends. We're good friends. I'm good friends with the girls, like. Because we were this traveling circus, everyone understands, and you become closer because of it. So
it's hard to keep up the relationships, especially like texting all the time when you're using your phone to text about 15, 20 other people.
You're online, but you're not messaging back.
Yeah,
you're like, I'm texting 15 different people about needing to get golf shoes and getting hats for people.
Yeah. How do you deal with that? Because losing friends is quite like...
It's really hard.
Yeah.
But I think if you're meant to be friends, like they'll understand and you'll come back together. So I think I always look at it as everything happens for a reason. If they don't truly value what you do or support you, then were they ever really your friend?
Yeah. So I think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and
I'm
I'm fully believer of that. Like everything happens for a reason. How I ended up in this job, like it happened because of COVID. Like I had to move back to the UK and ended up meeting people at P54, and then that's how I fell into this job. So everything kind of like, it's a chain of events that everything happens for a reason.
I mean, there's plenty of people who probably feel like it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite quote in general?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it is probably everything happens for a reason. Like when things happen, I'm like, okay, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Let's just remember this. Like, and I think I learn a lot from scenarios. Like obviously people are just like, oh, it's the end of the world. Like I've done that before as well. But looking back now, I'm like, that wasn't the end of the world. That actually was a very big turning point that was actually really good for my life. So
what would you say has felt like the end of the world that has actually been secretly extremely beneficial?
Well, when I told the story of me coming into this job, it was because I got made redundant at the last job. So that at the time felt like the end of the world, because I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, but
probably made you feel like no one wants you.
Exactly. And I felt like I was doing a good job at the time, but I still got made redundant. And because it was COVID as well, I was like, oh God. And I had to move back to the UK, and I was like, what do I do? What do I do? Yeah. So it did feel like the end of the world. I remember crying.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
If you didn't, I'd be like, she's a bit hard, isn't she?
No. And so everything happened for a reason. And I met, like, as I said, the golf industry is so small. I knew people who worked at P54. I ended up traveling a little bit, like going to different golf events. And then I came to an Aramco event, not working. I was a player guest. And now I work for them. So everything happens for a reason.
Everything does happen for a reason. Right. I'm going to come to the end of the podcast, but I'm going to still ask you the same question that we ask everyone who does come on.
Oh, no. I was hoping you would.
No, we are. Right. Shandi, what is one thing people don't know about you that you wish they did?
I don't know.
She's had months to think about this. She literally wrote the question.
I didn't think I was ever going to come on the podcast, so I would have prepared properly. I would have been like, right, what's a really cool thing? Because I'm not actually that like cool. I think
you are cool.
I don't know. I feel like I actually am really like, I doubt myself a lot.
Really?
Yeah. So like,
which is so strange because obviously from my side, I'm like, Shandi knows everything.
Yeah. So this is what the girls were saying as well. They were saying, oh, Shandi, like you do everything, you know everything. I'm like, no, I actually really doubt myself a lot.
That's crazy.
And like, that just goes to show like.
Is that the fake it till you make it attitude?
Well, kind of, yeah.
She just makes it, doesn't even fake it.
I think, it's just, and I think that's just because everyone kind of doubts themselves from time to time. And
like probably an element of imposter syndrome or never?
Yeah, and I think sometimes I'm like, am I actually good at my job? Like, it's hard. And I think, especially being a woman in sport, like it's so male dominated. I know we just talked about how many women work in sport, but there still is a long way to go.
Yeah.
And I think being in that role, I'm a bit like, oh God, like, is this happening because I'm not a man, stuff like that. What would happen, stuff like that. So I do doubt myself a lot, but
how do you manage that?
I kind of like, you just have to pick yourself up and just be like, you know what? I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
And what I kind of do is I think back and I'm like, well, all those times when things went wrong, I managed to fix them and it all ended up okay. So you just kind of have to remember the times you've done well. And then that kind of helps me pick myself back up. I'm like, okay, I can do, like, give yourself a pep talk. Like, I can do this. I can do this. So I would say if you're ever doubting yourself, just trust me, everyone does it. And you just have to, you know, pep talk yourself and
it's
you can do it.
It's going to be okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does. It feels like the world's going to end quite a lot of days of the week. But
this podcast was really deep.
Well, I didn't realise you doubted yourself. See, none of us would ever know that. Do you know what I mean? Like, because we're not the people you'd tell. But you have to have certain people that you do tell, right? Like, exactly. I doubt myself on a regular basis. I'm like, why do I make videos. People call them stupid videos.
No, I love
Maybe
your
they are
videos.
stupid. I don't know.
No, do you know when I watched some of your videos for drills when I started
did you?
learning golf? Yeah.
That's so
See,
funny.
so there you go.
There we go.
And then the best bit was I went for a lesson with Rachel and she was showing me this drill and I was like, I've seen this drill and I've done it on Mia. Mia did it on her channel. And she was
That's
like,
so
all
funny.
right then.
There you go.
See, so there you go. Don't doubt yourself.
You never know what
Yeah.
other people are thinking, and you could be helping someone without realizing. And
Yeah.
when you're doubting yourself, someone else will be looking up to you without you realizing, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, Shandi,
We've
thank
given
you.
each other a pep talk
there
now.
we go. Who needs anyone else? You've got me and Shandi here every week.
We'll do a separate podcast, pep talks.
It's a good podcast name, actually.
Yeah.
Probably exists already.
Yeah, probably.
Shandi, thank you so much for coming
No
on.
problem.
Hope you
Thank
have
you for having me.
the best week out here in Hong Kong. It's very hot, very sweaty.
Yes.
But it should be very, very fun. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and we will catch up with you very, very soon. Bye.